if you want that. So we are looking at a training database here. We're looking at a dummy copy of a CAD Learning Center where I do a lot of the training work and build the materials from. So there's not a ton of real activity in here, but there is some fake activity that we can use to work with. And you guys should be seeing the screen okay. If anybody can't see it, go ahead and raise your hand and let me know. But I think it's displaying properly. In today's webinar, we are going to focus solely on the users and user management. So in the administrative view, as you know, you have a number of options available to you that are not available to the end users, one of which is the site administration box. So end users won't see that box at all, but as administrators you do. And what we're going to focus on today is this folder right here called Users. Now, it's not a whole lot of time that you have to spend in this folder, but today we're just going to go through what all the possible options are so you have a better understanding of what you can and can't change in here. There may be a few things you didn't even know existed, so we want to take a look at some of those. There are 3 subfolders inside Users. We have Authentication, we have Accounts, and we have Permissions. Authentication focuses on how people are authenticated when they join the website. So when a new user comes to the site, how can they be added and how do they get logged in? Accounts is where we're going to manage all the individual user accounts and where we can search for people, view them, edit, add, delete, make changes in bulk, etc. We'll probably spend the most time in that folder. And then Permissions is the folder where we manage all of the security permissions for your users. Now, you don't spend a whole lot of time in that folder typically because once the security roles are set up, they're good to go. You don't have to come back and maintain them on a regular basis. But I am going to go over it today just so you have an idea of what's in there and what you have access to change should you need to. So we're going to focus primarily on those 3 areas today. Now, let's start with authentication. I'm going to go ahead and click on that authentication folder, and it opens up and gives me a number of choices. And the first one says Manage Authentication. And I'm going to click on that. The Manage Authentication screen gives us a list of all the possible plugins available here to authenticate your users with. And I'm going to tell you right up front, we unfortunately do not support all of these. What we use primarily, Manual Accounts is a default for all websites. It's how you add people in manually. No Login is an option that's available only if you want to lock somebody out of the system. I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Email-based self-registration is the most common way to register people to the site. So a number of you are using that already. That's where a user can come in and register themselves as long as they have the appropriate email address. And then A-Member, the 4th choice in the list there, is an add-on that we use if we're working with a system where we need to have a start and end date for a member and we need to control which courses they access. So typically for resellers, people who are working with subscriptions. The remaining choices here we would typically never work with. We do offer SSO authentication, but that's something we would set up for you. You would not need to come in here and work with that. And that is an option where you can have your users authenticated against your internal network. We essentially set up a tunnel between the two, and every time somebody logs in, it's going to check their credentials against your network to see is this person still active or not, and allow them in. So that option can be set up, but that one has to be done by us. Okay. Now, once you've done all the setup here, it's very rare you would ever come back and change unless you want to add a new method. So I just wanted to go through some of the options here. Each one of these does have an option to the side that says Settings, and when I click on those, it brings me to a screen where I can lock user fields. So essentially what this means is, will the user be able to come in and change that field after the fact? Do we want it locked? Okay. We generally leave these all locked. They can fill them in with whatever they need. They can come back and change them when they need to. You could adjust that if you wanted. You're going to see that same screen when I look at each of these, okay, except for No Login. No Login is saying that this is an auxiliary plugin that prevents users logging into the system and discards any email sent to that user. So essentially, you have a user that you would like to lock out of the account, but you don't want to delete them yet. Maybe they're coming back. You could use No Login to make sure that they stay here as a user, but they can't log into the system. And I'm going to show you where to set that on the user account. Okay. email-based self-registration. If I click settings, we're going to see those same choices that we had here for the user fields. And we also have a choice to enable reCAPTCHA element, which means when a user comes to create their user account, they're going to get one of those little pictures that is almost impossible to read sometimes, and they're going to have to type in the letters or the numbers they see. And that just avoids spam, essentially. It avoids an automated system from creating a user account. We don't typically have a lot of people who have that in place simply because you have to have the appropriate email domain to get an account anyways. And it's very unlikely that somebody in your email with a valid, in your domain with a valid email address is going to be using an automated system like that. But you certainly can turn it on if you'd like. Okay. So that's one of those options that we have in here. We don't use typically, but if you wanted to activate it, you have the ability to do so as an administrator. So that was under the email-based self-registration settings. Now the little eyeball that you're seeing here, that allows me to enable or disable any of these authentication settings. So you can see that I have email-based self-registration enabled right now. A member is not. If I needed that enabled, I would go ahead and click the eyeball and it would make it active. And then at the end, again, I have settings and it's going to look similar. This one is going to tell me that all of the information is going to be stored in the other system. Okay, so in the A member website, which is a completely standalone website, we're going to manage username, password, etc. We don't have to worry about any of that in here. Okay. Now if I scroll down just a little bit, this is where we have some common settings. And the common settings will impact your logins essentially regardless of what you've selected above. And the first thing here is self-registration. This is where we activate email-based self-registration if we want to provide a link on the login page that people can use to sign up. So I have to enable that if I want to have that link available. If we want a guest login button available, we can do that right here. So if you expect that there are people who are going to be guests on your website for whatever reason, you can create a guest login button. It'll give them access to get to your home page. And there are courses that you may want to set up for guest access. They would have access, of course, to only those. Alternative login and forgotten password URL, we're going to leave those blank. We don't fill those in because we do need it to go to the login that it's directed to. Instructions. This is where you can fill in custom instructions to appear on the sign-up screen. Now, let me just go ahead and open up a second window if I can. Bear with me one moment. I want to show you where that appears. I'm going to bring that right here. So we are not logged in yet in this browser. Same website, but I'm not logged in. And if I come in here and say I want to create a new account, there are some instructions that may be, excuse me, they're not displayed there. I need to click the login box. There are some instructions that may be displayed right here. So this is the text that was in that instructional box, and we can make that as detailed as we want. You can put specific instructions for your users as far as what to use for a new user account, what to use for their password, etc. And that can be customized again right in this box here. Allowed email domains. This is the one area I suspect you may come in and change in the future. This is where we put in any email domains that are permitted to create a user account, and by default it starts with just CADLearning. As I set each new customer up, I add in the appropriate email domains, but you may find at some point in time that you want to add a new one. Maybe you've brought in a new division, you have a contract or a vendor. You can add additional domains here at any time. All you have to do is put a space in between them just like that and then type in the new domain. Denied email domains. If you were going to leave this open to the world, you may want to come in and say except for the following email domains like Hotmail, Yahoo, and Live. But because we've restricted this, there's no need to really fill that in. Restrict domains when changing email. That means if they had to have a CADLearning.com email address to sign up, they've got to keep it when they come in and edit their profile. They can't change it to something else after the fact. And then this information down at the bottom you're not going to want to touch or change. This is if you've enabled that reCAPTCHA, this is where it's getting the information from over on Google. So we need that filled in to make it work. So a number of common settings here, very few that you'll ever have to play with, a handful you may not have known were available, like the guest login button, the additional domains, and some instructions. Okay. All of these choices are predefined when we first get you up and running, so as I mentioned before, it's not often you're going to spend a whole lot of time in that folder. But I wanted you to see all the different choices that are available and where you can make those changes. Now we're going to take a look at the Accounts folder. I'm going to move right into here, and there's a series of choices, and I'm going to start right at the top with Browse List of Users. In this list, I automatically see all users for the site. Now I have, of course, only 6 users in my little dummy site. You guys probably have hundreds of users in each of your respective sites, and you will be able to search for people by name right here on the landing screen. If you need to search a different way, maybe by email, maybe by office, something like that, you can click Show Advanced, and it's going to provide additional choices for searching, quite a few as a matter of fact. So this comes in really handy if you're trying to get a list, let's say, of users who haven't logged in the last 30 days or 60 days, or maybe people who have logged in the last 30 days. You can search any number of ways. You will have the ability to create custom profile fields. That's one of the options we're going to look at. And if you create a profile field, you will be able to search by it. So I created an example here of company, and then I can say, does their company contain, equal, start with, end with, etc., and I can search for people that way. So there's a number of choices when you're searching your users there. Now I'm going to go ahead and hide that. In the list here, if I click on somebody's name, it brings me straight to their profile so we can take a look at the details there. And right up front, it's giving me their email address, their city, town, country, last time they accessed, edit, and delete. Email address. I want to point this out quickly because, as you all know, we've made a change recently where the end users are asked to log in the first time they view a video, and it will be looking for their email address on that screen, not their username. So if somebody is unsure of what email address they used when they registered, you can find it right here in this list. They can also find it by just clicking their name and viewing their profile, but sometimes they're going to come to you for help first. If I want to edit somebody's profile, I can do that right over here. So why don't we go ahead and click on one of the users and we'll choose Edit. This is the user profile screen, okay? And this is where we have the username set up and their authentication method. So I had mentioned earlier that if you wanted to lock somebody out, you could change their authentication method. This is where that would happen. All of the possible choices are listed, and if I want to make sure that Mr. Dolan does not log into this website without deleting his account, then I would come in here and change it to no login. Now he can't log in anymore. The password box, by default it's empty. I can't look up somebody's password. We don't have those stored here. But I can change it. I can put a new one in the box, just like this. I can click on Mask to make sure that I've typed it correctly, just to make sure you don't have a typo somewhere since we only type it one time. And I can force the user to change the password when they log in the next time. So anytime a user comes to us and says they've lost a password, this is how we handle it. We go ahead and we give them a new temporary password and we force them to change it when they log in next. If you are in somebody's profile making changes and you don't put anything in that password box, if you leave it empty, then nothing changes. Their password will remain whatever it was. So you can change other things without adjusting the password. The end users have the ability to change everything from here down. They can change their first name, last name, email, all of their optional email choices. They can change their city and town and location. If I scroll down, they can change, they can upload their own picture here, change their interests, all of their contact information, and then any custom fields that you've created are displayed right here, and they can modify those. The only thing they cannot change that they will need you as an administrator to change is their username and their authentication method. They have no control over those. So you can update those profiles at any time and just save your changes. Now, if I just want to view a profile, let's go ahead and view the next one here, which of course happens to be me. This is the student record for Kelly Dwyer. And I've put in some dummy information just so we have some stuff to look at. As an administrator, when you're looking at a user's profile, you're going to have a button right here that says log in as, so that you can log in as that person. Now, there's probably two reasons you may want to do that. You may want to see what the screen looks like to an end user, because it does look a little different than it does for an admin. You may be troubleshooting. Maybe Kelly called and said she couldn't see a certain course, and you want to be sure she can. Double check what happened. And the most common reason is probably if you want to check on the curriculums that that person has saved for themselves. Because remember, custom curriculums are saved person by person. When I ask to see custom curriculums, I'm going to see the admin's curriculums. If I want to see Kelly's, I need to log in as her and then choose curriculum, and I'll see her choices. Now, right up at the top, if you are logged in as somebody else using your admin account, all you have to do is click admin user to return to your role. You'll come right back to that admin screen. So I'm going to return to users and accounts. I'm going to browse once again, and I'm going to click Kelly. Lots of information displayed right here. Probably the most important is which courses is this person enrolled in right now, because if I want to get some detailed history, I'm going to need to select one of those courses. Okay. The second tab here is Edit Profile. It's the same thing we had if we clicked Edit from the home page. So it just lets me come in and edit their profile. So I'm going to back up. Forum posts. This is not something that very many people are using, but you may have a discussion forum on your home page or in any of your courses. And this screen is going to show you any discussions that this particular user has participated in. So did they answer someone's question? Did they ask a question, etc., if you want to monitor that. Blog. I have very few people who are using this. I put a sample blog in just so I could show you what it looks like. Users have the ability to create little blog entries anytime they want. They can share tips, they can share tricks, they can become searchable to all other users, or they can make them a draft so that only they see it, a place for them to store notes about maybe where they left off or what they want to focus on, things like that. So it's a very quick and easy entry. They just click Add a New Entry, and it asks them to key in a title and some text. Then they can choose down here if they want to share it with everyone or not. Again, very few people are using that right now, but it is something that's available if you ever wanted to. And on this screen is where you can see all the blogs that this user has created. Notes. This is where I'm going to see all of the courses that this user has enrolled in, and I can add a note for any one of these if I wanted to as an administrator. Teachers would also have that ability if you have teachers set up for a course. This is very unlikely to be used. The end user doesn't create the notes, only the admin does. So it's pretty unlikely that you're going to have the time to go user by user and add notes course by course. You guys all have full-time jobs, I know that. But I just want you to know what it does. And activity reports. Here's the most important part. This is probably the #1 reason you come to somebody's profile. What has this person done, if anything? So when I click on activity reports, the first thing that happens is I get a bunch of buttons underneath. These are all different views. And it is by default showing the activity from the home page. There are some resources right on the home page. And it'll tell me, has this person viewed them? And how many times? And when was the last one? If I'm looking for information for just one course, that's when I want to return here to Profile and choose one of the courses. All right, so let's go ahead and choose this one. When I selected the course name, the screen changed just a little bit. It added a new button here that says Unroll Me from Revit Architecture. If you want to remove this person from that course, you can. That will unenroll them. Not that they don't have access to enroll themselves again, but it comes in handy if somebody called you and said, I just enrolled in this course and I didn't mean to. Can you get it off my list? Now that I've selected a course, when I come back here to activity reports, watch how the screen changes. Now I get detailed activity for every lesson in that course and every quiz in that course. What did this person view and when? Did they take any quizzes? And if so, what were the grades? So all that history is being captured right here. Now that's my outline report. I can also ask for a complete report, which just gives you a little more detail. Okay. Scroll down just a little bit here. So it's a lot more listed here. I have today's logs. What did they do in this course today? So everything that they did in the course. all logs, not just today, all history for this course. What did they do ever? So this is going to include every time they log in, log out, click on something, everything. Statistics. Now this is something that does not always display information. It depends on the amount of history you have. Remember, this is a dummy database. I've just created it. I've just put in some dumb information. There's not real history here. You will probably find some information there, okay, about their participation over time. And a grade report. If I have one available, you're going to see a grade report here for the person's quizzes throughout the system. So all that information is available for whichever course you selected back here on the profile. Okay. I am going to return to the home screen, and I'm going to come back to users and accounts. So single users, pretty self-explanatory. Okay. We've taken a look at how to view the user. We've taken a look at how to view their activity, how to make changes to their profile, how to search for users. Adding a new user is available as a link from here and over here in the menu. We make that one pretty easy. And to add a new user, what you have to do is fill in all those details that were on the profile screen. So I need a username for this person. It's going to fill in as a manual account if I'm adding it manually. Okay. Password. Do I want them to change it? First name, last name, email, city, and town. Okay. If you have any additional fields that you've required, those will be listed right down here at the bottom for you to fill in. So you can add a single user at any time. Obviously, adding people one at a time is not the most efficient way to do that. So there is a choice here for uploading users. You can pull people in from a CSV file if you've got a list. And I do have a template available that I can give you. If I click on Upload Users, on the screen we do have one of those friendly little yellow question marks. So this is going to give you some instructions for how to upload your users. It tells you exactly what to fill in. All we really need are the very basics. We're going to be looking for first name, last name, username, password, email. There are additional things you can fill in, and you're welcome to go through that help file and find them. But typically we just bring those basics in if you have a list of people to update. Okay. Of course, you may have it set up that users can self-enroll, so they're going to create their own accounts and you don't have to worry about adding them. Or you may have connected to your network for single sign-on, which means you don't have to worry about adding them there as well. Now, I want to point out here the bulk user actions. This allows you to perform certain actions in bulk other than import in users. If I click on bulk user actions, it brings me to a screen where I can search my users, select from the results, and then perform an action. So there are 3 steps here. By default, of course, it's searching by name, but we do have show advanced. So again, maybe I want to see anybody whose last access was before April 15th of 2014, somebody who hasn't been here in a year. Okay. Those were the people who met my criteria. 4 out of 6 of my users have not logged in the last year. And then from here, I can either add everyone, I can say add all, and all 4 of them will move over, or I can pick and choose. I don't have to have everyone in there. It can be just a handful. So you're going to use the search box to get your filtered results, and then you're going to confirm which people you want to perform the action to. And then down here at the bottom, this is the list of choices that we have. This is what we can do. I can confirm them if they're pending. I can add or send them a message. That uses the internal message system. So they'll only see that the next time they log in. It'll pop up a message and then it'll vanish. I can delete them. If you're cleaning house and you have a bunch of old accounts that need to be removed, this is an easy way to do it. I can display them on a page. It gives me a pop-up report with their user details. I can download them into Excel. A lot of people ask, how can I get a user list out of here? Search everyone, add them, download to Excel. And last but not least, I can force a password change if I want those people to have to update their password next time they log in. So there's only a handful of choices here, but they do come in incredibly handy, especially if you're trying to get a list of all your users right now. Okay, and all of that was found here under bulk user actions. Uploading user pictures. You do have the ability here to upload pictures in bulk if you want to. I have not had anybody use that feature yet. But if you decided that you had a corporate directory somewhere that had all the pictures for your users, and you created a spreadsheet with the pictures tied to a particular username, you could import them all. Last but certainly not least is user profile fields. I've mentioned a few times that you could create a custom field. This is where you would do that. So I have two sample custom fields listed here. I have division and I have training group. And I made both of them up just as examples. We can create as many fields as we need. Okay. If we want to create a new profile field, there's a drop-down list of choices. I can make this a checkbox, like a yes-no scenario. Is this person qualified or not? Are they in the program or not? A menu of choices, a drop-down list just like this one. Text area or input. Both are boxes that the user can type into. One is a single line, one is an open box. So you can be pretty flexible about what you add in here. And when you create that new field, it's going to ask you to give it a name and then a full name. They can both be exactly the same unless you want to make this second one longer for a description. A description, which is optional. It's not required. Here's the important stuff. Is this field required? When I add a new user, do I have to fill that in? Yes or no? Is it locked? Once it's been filled in, can it be changed? Should the data be unique? Most times that's going to be no, but occasionally it will be. Maybe you're having them put in their employee ID. No two people should have the same ID. Do we want it displayed on our sign-up page? When people create their own user account, should they be able to fill this field in? And who is it visible to? So you can actually hide it if you needed to. Last but not least is category. If you find yourself in a situation where you're going to have a lot of custom fields, you can organize them into different categories. So it doesn't happen a whole lot, but it can be done. Now right down here we have a place for a default value. We're going to leave it blank if it's a text box. If this was a drop-down list of choices, this is where I would create the list of choices that people have available to them. And then I would save. I'm going to hit cancel. So right now I have a category called Other Fields, and that's where both of my custom fields live. If I want a new category, I can create that at any time, but I don't have anyone in my portfolio who has created so many custom fields that they need multiple categories. It's not likely. I tell you only so you'll know what it is. So those user fields, once added, become a piece on that user account that can be filled in, and you determine if it is something that is required or not. So we have talked about user accounts exhaustively, how to add, how to view, find, edit. There's an option right here to delete. I didn't show you, but it's fairly easy. We just click delete and confirm. Okay. Here's an important note. When you delete somebody, you can't undo that. Their history is not gone. Their history stays here, but they don't have an active user account anymore. And if they come back to your company, because that does happen, you're going to give them a brand new user account, and they'll start with a new history. That's all. We talked about customizations as far as profile fields and pictures and how to perform bulk user actions. Now, the last piece we need to look at today for user management is permissions. And there are 3 subfolders in here. This is a folder you will spend very little time in. Once the permissions are set up, you typically don't have to come make changes, but I want you to know you can. The first folder is called Define Roles. So this is where each of the default roles is listed with a quick description, and if you would like to edit that role, you can do so right here. So if I want to change what a student can do, I'm going to click the edit icon. Now the screen that's presented is a little bit overwhelming visually, so I encourage you guys to call me if you need help. If you get here and go, I don't know exactly what that means, give me a call and we'll look at it together. Okay, these little icons are trying to give you warnings. You know, if you change this, the user might be able to send spam. If you change this, they might be able to change other things that are important. You know, each of the warnings gives you different information. You can also create new roles. If this is not enough, We can add a new role at any time. And when we do that, it's going to ask me here, do you want to set a legacy role type, which means what am I copying it from? So I can take a copy of the student role and add a few new pieces. Or I could take a copy of administrator and take away a few pieces if you wanted to have an assistant administrator essentially. So you can create as many roles as you need, and you can customize the roles that are already here by clicking on Edit. If you are not sure how to change one of the items or what they mean, I encourage you to give me a call. Now there are a couple additional tabs right up here. We have Allow Role Assignments. This indicates who can give somebody else a role. All right. So if I'm an administrator, I can make somebody any of the roles. If I'm a course creator, I can't make someone else an admin or a client admin or even a course creator. But I can make them anything that is beneath my role, teacher, non-editing student, etc. And you'll see that it sort of trickles down as we go through there. All right, so if you've created somebody with a role of teacher and they come in here and try to change it, they won't be able to. They can't promote somebody to admin or course creator. They'll only have choice of non-editing student, guest. And then the last choice here is Allow Role Overrides, and typically we do not change this, but again, who can go in and edit those roles? An administrator can come in and edit any of the roles. The only person who can edit these two roles are administrators. Teachers, non-editing teacher, student, guest, that's what 4D administrator can edit. Okay. Course creators, teachers, non-editing teacher, student, guest, and authenticated user, they don't have the ability right now to edit any of the other roles. It's only those admins that can. So this gets pretty detailed when you take a look at it, which roles have access to change things, but you will have the ability to come in and change it anytime you want. I find that the defaults typically work best. I don't see people change it a whole lot. Okay. Now, assign system roles. This is where you're going to come to actually assign one of those roles you've created to your user. So it's just a little bit backwards than how you would think of it logically. Most people think, I want to make Joe Smith an administrator, and they'll go find Joe Smith's account. In this system, it doesn't work that way. I need to come to this section, Assign System Roles, and I'm going to choose the role I want to assign to him, administrator, and then I'm going to find him in the list of users, and I'm going to add him to the list of people with that role. So you can add and you can remove it any time here. It's very quick and easy to assign someone a new role. But you will only be able to assign roles that you have permission to assign. And that was based on, up here, Allow Role Assignments. Okay, so as an administrator, we see everything. If you give somebody a teacher access, they won't see everything. But they can make people assistant teachers or students. So assign system roles is where we put it into play. And the very last screen here, user policies, I don't think you guys would ever change, but it sets up some of the defaults for the system. Roles for a visitor, so someone who's come to your site but not logged in, we assign them a role of guest. That's what we call them when they're there. Okay. And then role for the guest, should we give them an automatic security role? And yep, they get it as guest. Once they've logged in, they become what's called an authenticated user when they're on the home page or any of the common areas. When they enter a course, they become a student. So that's the default role in a course. You can promote users above their default roles, but you do not have to go assign a role for each and every user. This is showing you that we're automatically going to make them a user when they enter the site, and we're going to automatically promote them to student when they enter a course. If you want to move them any further up than that, you're going to come back here to assign system roles. Okay. There are a number of other optional pieces here, but again, I don't think we would ever need any of these. Typically, the defaults are fine. If you ever have any questions or want to make any changes, I encourage you to reach out, give me a call or an email, and I will let you know exactly what the setting does. We can even do it in a test environment first to make sure it gives you the results you want. I can get you access to one of these test copies. So we have looked at authentication, how our users get here, accounts, how we manage them once they're here, and permissions, what do they have access to while they're here. And that is everything you need to know about user management. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for any questions. If you have any questions, I encourage you to type them in the box on the side, and I will go through them. I already have one question here, so we'll start with that one. Kevin is asking, your graphic interface looks updated. Aha, yes. Is there an easy way to update the site and take advantage of this newer look? That's an excellent question. So for those of you who are here, you're all administrators, so we can talk about that. It doesn't have anything to do with users, but that's okay. I am using a newer theme than some of the older sites have applied to them. It's something new that we found and we put into play. If you are interested in this theme, you certainly can have it. I can load it into your site if it's not there already. In the site administration box here on the home page, there is a place called Appearance, and in Appearance is a folder called Themes. Now, we may have told you in the past, you don't want to change your theme. The reason for that is because themes that are made for these sites are made by individuals who may or may not have done the entire thing properly. So we don't want you to inadvertently break your site, but worst case scenario, we can always reset it back to the default for you. Okay, so in here, if I choose Theme Selector, it gives me a list of all the themes that are loaded up for this site, and I'm using one called Education Essence. All right, some of you will find that you're using Formal White, some of you will find that you're using Standard. It really depends on how long you've been with us, because what happens is we had a theme that we used when we created a number of sites, then we found a new one. So we created a number of sites with that one. Oh, we found a new one. So over time, they've changed. And some customers have changed their own. Sometimes people come in and upload their own themes and change them. So every site looks a little bit different. But Kevin, if you are interested, I would be happy to get that theme loaded on your site for you so that you can choose it. Anybody else have any questions? Nope, nothing's coming in. If you don't have any questions, you guys are free to go. I want to thank you for your time. If you do think of questions after the fact, don't hesitate to give me a call or send me an email, okay? John has a question. The template for the user upload. John, I would be happy to send that to you if you'd like. It's just an Excel file with some column headers, and you would open it up, fill it in, and then save as a CSV file. So I can email that off to you when we're done here so that you have it available. Okay, yeah, that's fine, John. I'll get that sent over to you when we wrap up here. It's very simple. You'll probably look at it and go, that's a template? It has 4 words, but it just helps people to understand what to put where. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. I hope it was helpful. And I hope to see you in more webinars. Jennifer's being awful quiet. No questions from you? Okay, I think that's it. We're going to go ahead and wrap up for today. So again, thank you for your time, and let me know if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you.